June meeting of Public Safety Task Force. It has been a very, I think, productive and successful beginning to what will be an extended, we're gonna go another 6 months with this into the fall. And we can talk a little bit more about that for those few stragglers who will be able to stick it out till 8:15 tonight. But we're delighted to have two great presentations tonight, or conversations, shall we?
Yes.
Estelle and Jordan? Well, you know, we're casual here at Public Safety. So please, introduce yourselves. I'm Jamie Floyd. I'm the chair, and these are our esteemed members, and we have some people, we have quite a few people online who will participate if they have questions or comments. But we're really interested in and curious about Cash for Guns, which Jordan mentioned at our full board,
Okay,
and which I know, there's an event coming up.
yes,
So tell us what you want to tell us.
okay.
So we
Thank
can
you.
learn from you.
Thank you. Well, does everybody already know you, Jordan? Or do you
Well,
want-
say again for those who don't.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jordan Follett. I am Community Engagement Coordinator for the Upper West Side and Upper East Side with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office within our Community Partnerships Unit. And hi, everybody. Good to see you, those of you who I already know. My name is Estelle Stryker Santiago. I'm the Executive Director of the Community Partnerships Unit at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, or Jordan. And we wanted to talk to you, and I'm really glad that Jordan brought it up, but we do have, first, let me start by saying that June is Gun Violence Awareness Month. And so the event that we're having on Saturday is one part of a much broader strategy, not only in June, but all the time, to address the issues of guns. You may be aware that over the past 4 or 5 years since the DA has been in office, we've been working closely with NYPD to reduce gun violence, and we've had some success, and the data is showing a big decrease in gun violence throughout the borough and actually also throughout the city. So that's the good news. Obviously, there is still some gun violence and still a lot of work to be done. And so what our team does, we obviously have the prosecutor to prosecute the cases of gun violence and seek justice for the victims. And our team does the prevention work, right? And so again, there's many other strategies that we're using, but one strategy that's been going on, I've been in the DA's office for longer than I want to admit, but I will admit it, since 1990. So I served under Morgenthau. And we've been doing gun buybacks for many years. I've been doing them or leading them for our team since 2010. What's happening this Saturday, I'll get specific to that. And then if you have questions about the event or the idea of gun buybacks, I'm happy to do my best to answer those questions. So this Saturday, June 13th, on the Upper West Side at Central Baptist Church, which is at 166 West 92nd Street, from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. Anybody can turn in a gun. There's no questions asked. We don't take names, people don't log in, they just walk in. This is sponsored and run in partnership between the NYPD and our office. And PD is there because it involves guns, so we want to be safe. But individuals can turn in guns, and depending upon the gun, they can get $500 prepaid card for operable handguns and assault rifles, $200 prepaid card for ghost guns or 3D printed guns, $75 for prepaid card for operable rifles and shotguns, and $25 for air guns, non-operable guns, and imitation pistols. There is a limit of 3 guns total per participant. And the guns are inspected by the NYPD to determine if they're operable and how much the person can get. And then they're destroyed. And that's really important for the trust for people turning in guns. A lot of folks are worried, that they could get in trouble for turning in the gun. And we and PD and the other 4 DA's offices who host them in their boroughs believe that it's worth it to get a gun off the street to do it this way. We do usually 1 or 2 a year in Manhattan and 1 or 2 a year in all the other boroughs. That being said, we also want to make it really clear, you don't have to live in Manhattan, you can live anywhere. And we don't ask for names or identification or anything like that. We've gotten anywhere from, I think one of our lower times was 15, but all the way up to over 100 guns on a given gun buyback day. We've been doing Jordan and her colleagues have been doing an incredible amount of outreach. They're canvassing, they're handing out the flyers, they're going to meetings all over the borough. And the district attorney has been interviewed, and there's a lot of kind of press around it as well. So we're hoping for a good, good turnout of guns on Saturday. So that's a gun buyback. I'm happy to answer questions if there are any.
I'm a lawyer, so I should know the answers to this question, but I didn't practice criminal law.
Mhm.
What, in a couple of sentences, is the existing law with regard to possession of handguns and rifles?
So I am also not a lawyer, and I'm not a prosecutor.
But you're playing one on.
I work with them.
For
I work
30
with
years.
them. I've been working with them, yeah. So there's different laws that depending upon, the situation. So, yeah.
Okay, so what's the goal? I mean, people should have handguns in their guns. They're not dangerous people probably because they're handing in their guns.
That's right.
I don't want. What then is your goal?
The goal is to get as many guns off the street or out of homes as possible. We do see a connection between domestic violence and guns, suicide and guns. Don't get me wrong, part of my goal is to get the guns off the street that are in the hands of, unfortunately, a lot of young people who are shooting each other over nothing. And so we do a lot of outreach to credible messengers who work with those young people who are trying to help them to stop taking part in that. And so we do try to get those guns off as well, but any gun off the street or out of a home is probably going to save a life. So that's our goal, is to save lives and get guns off the street.
So I understand the program is the way it is, and I understand the rationale for it. Couple things, I was sort of making a joke before I said to you, you buy water guns. But, but I did hear you say imitation guns, and I know that there's a tremendous amount of, a big problem with guns that look real and, from both a perpetrator of a crime and a victim of a crime. So I assume imitation guns could be toys that look real, right? Okay, I wondered why there's a limit, because if somebody came in with 10 guns, and you say, well, buy your 3, take the 7 back on the street, wouldn't you want to?
There's not a limit on how many guns you can turn in. There's a limit on how much money we're gonna give out.
Okay,
Which I suspect there's a relationship.
Yeah. But yes, we've never had somebody bring in a gun,
Right.
more guns and not get the money,
Right.
but we have to be careful. We don't want to become a part of, the trafficking of guns
Right,
that
right.
people are profiting off of this event. So we work with PD to make sure that it's the right amount.
that's
We
right.
want people to turn them in because they want to, but yeah.
One thing I forgot to ask you, which is, and I guess I think I know the answer because of what you said, no questions were asked, but what if somebody turns in a gun that was, associated with a major crime?
That's a
Do
great
you-
question.
Do you happen to check it before you destroy it
not.
to say we now have it in evidence?
We
No.
do not.
So,
And I've asked prosecutors, that question a number of
Yeah.
times, because it's a good question. But when it comes to seeking justice and having a case, the view is that getting that gun off the street outweighs the benefits of it as evidence, because we usually have so much other evidence that we don't necessarily need the gun.
But you're
to get a
ostensibly
conviction.
destroying evidence. You
Not
could-
necessarily.
Potentially.
Potentially.
well, you
Yeah.
won't know.
we won't know. Exactly.
It won't
It's
be
not-
checked, it'll be
it's
melted
not-
or destroyed and it's
Yeah,
gone. Okay.
exactly.
It's not evidence yet. Is it destroying, so I am a
Yeah.
criminal lawyer,
Yeah.
and evidence is in evidence
Right.
after the trial begins, or at least after the
That's right.
prosecution
Discovery,
begins.
yeah.
And these, unless somebody brings a gun that's been entered into evidence, it's not destruction of evidence.
Well,
This is highly technical.
And I appreciate you.
Thank you for the
With respect, though,
clarification.
it's
because-
still evidence when it's collected as evidence even before trial.
That's correct.
Right, but it
That's
has to be
correct.
collected, so that's
That's
clear.
correct.
Okay.
And to your question, New York, and this, and
Please.
it has some of the state and city, the strictest gun laws in the country. Even with the Supreme
I mean,
Court
I'm-
pushing back on it in
Yeah.
twenty
Generally
twenty-two.
aware, but I've.
Yeah.
Most of the guns that
We could do a
that are,
whole,
most of the guns are coming from other states.
Right.
Right, it is normally illegal to possess any
Oh,
sort of
John's here.
firearm in New York
Thank you,
City
John.
without a license. And you can't even shoot a pistol at a licensed range in New York, which is the stricter than New Jersey. for
Right.
example, law. So I assume that basically you are allowed to bring a gun in without the license for this only, right?
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
that goes on,
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
thing that goes unenforced.
Yeah, we don't,
Okay.
So Estelle, this is a community where there are 200 sides to every issue. I
Steve,
think-
don't
I
exaggerate.
think you might actually have a program that almost every sane and insane person in our community would agree has merit. The question is, for those of us who don't have guns, and we don't actually know people who have illegal guns, it's not stuff we can talk about sort of with our regular.
Yeah.
How do we participate or support the effort to make it more successful? Because who's against collecting guns?
Buy one for 50, you get 500.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great,
It's a bad joke.
it's a
But
really.
what's our role, what's our role, what's our role as citizens and as people who speak to many neighbors in trying to support the project?
I think, it's a great question. And because we live in such a kind of condensed area, you could run into somebody, maybe not your closest, but your schools, family, like getting the word out. And if somebody's asking you questions about it and you don't know the answer to the question, you have, Jordan will make sure that we get them the answer, but it's getting the word out. But the key thing, people do not believe that it's anonymous. And that's why we do it in church. This isn't a church. We always do it in churches. And so helping us to get people to understand that it is truly anonymous. And if you run into somebody who seems to be asking you a lot of questions about it and you think, maybe they either want to, or they know somebody who wants to turn in a gun, connect them to us. Invite us to other meetings where we can talk about it. Anything you can do to help us, get the word out.
And it's not just illegal. Sometimes people inherit guns that they
Exactly.
want to dispose of. And if they knew about this program, this could be a big relief for those
That's right.
people,
That happens a lot, Grandpa passes away and grandma goes through the drawer by the bed and finds a gun and she doesn't want it. Or she's known it there and now's the time she wants to get rid of it. 100%. That's very common. Yeah. So that, yeah.
Is the prepaid card issued directly to the person or given to the person? when
It's
they-
given to the person. No, we don't need their name or anything. It's just handed. You literally, I'll walk you through it. You walk into the church. Sometimes people sometimes drive up, because some people drive and then, somebody will come out, help them get the gun out of we tell them to put it in their trunk in a paper bag. They come in, the gun is taken from them and brought to the people, the experts from NYPD who know all about guns, and they are in a separate room and they look at it. They tell the other PD person or somebody from my team, they get, they get 25 or they get 500, whatever it is. They walk over, they give them the card and they leave. And that's it.
Okay.
The only wait that could occur is if things are going well and we're getting a lot of guns. And then you might have to, and then we have a little waiting area like that where people sit and they can talk to it. And there's not a lot of people. This is the one event where we don't need our whole team there because we don't want a lot of people. I've been to them where somebody, is clearly coming to turn in a gun and they see a lot of people standing around, like I'm out, and they leave. So we really do everything we can to try to make people feel comfortable. They do walk in and there are police officers there because we need police there. But we've told them ahead of time that, that's what it's gonna be. like, yeah.
Thank you.
Excuse me. This is very important. So glad that you're here and understand it more. In the time that you have been focusing here, let's say in the Upper West Side,
Yeah.
and you have done, you've learned how to do it in terms of connections and all. Do you have any, I'm using the word not scientifically, but findings that, for example, if you've been doing this, let's say for 3 years, if that's a good thing, and then you have information about 30% came from families, and 25% came from individuals. I'm just looking for a way to understand, because it's a great program. What are the findings? What
So
do you
it's a
know?
great.
Is there more individuals? Are there
The
families?
problem so most of the initiatives that we do that. We have a questionnaire after,
Oh, good.
how did you hear about us? Why are you here? We say no questions asked. at this.
Okay,
So we can't even do a questionnaire at the end. We can't, I would love to be able to say,
yes,
how did you hear about us? What community are you from? Did you bring, another really important thing I need to say that I didn't, and I can't believe I didn't say this. If I have a gun and I want to turn it in, but I'm scared, I don't have to turn it in. I can go to my uncle, we tell the kids they can go to credible messengers that they work with. These are people who work with kids who are in, justice involved or maybe taking part in shooting or holding a gun. They don't have to be the ones to turn it in, because again, we're not taking names. So I can,
okay,
Jordan could go for me and get it and then bring me the card.
There's no chain of custody.
There's
Right,
nothing, and that
right.
means that we can't tell you. I can't tell you. What I can tell you is visually,
yeah,
I can tell you that and also PD does look at the guns after, and when we've done well at doing outreach in the communities, listen, the Upper West Side doesn't have the most gun violence in Manhattan. There is some, but they don't compare to East Harlem, the Lower East Side, parts of Washington Heights. We're not necessarily doing it here because you guys have a lot of violence,
Mhm.
although there is some among some of the NYCHA communities. And so Jordan and Julia, who a lot of you also know, who is now a supervisor and had Jordan's position before, have advocated for us to do it on the Upper West Side.
Hmm.
But the other benefit of doing it on the Upper West Side is that PD informed us that you actually don't want to do it right smack in the middle of where the gun violence is happening, because what person is going to want to go walk in and turn a gun if the rival gang that they're feuding with sees them go do it, or their mom their aunt sees them. So having it here is it's a win-win, and that it has been some unfortunate gun violence in this community, but also it's just outside of where some of the other violence is happening. But to actually answer your question, no, we can't get you that data
yeah,
because we don't ask questions.
thank you.
It's a question.
Thank you, Sarah Lynn.
Hi.
First off, thank you for this. I know you kind of mentioned it, but is there any age limit? In theory, somebody who's 10 years old walks in.
We've never had a kid walk in, but I think we'd be pretty concerned if there was a 10-year-old walking in, what we would do. I don't know if we have to strategize at that point. But yeah, I would.
Take them into custody.
So no, there is no age limit. However, kids that are underage, we would probably need to figure out what to do with them. And that has not happened yet.
How is this funded?
So the NYPD pays for half of it. And if it's in Manhattan, the Manhattan District Attorney pays for half of it. If it's in the Bronx District Attorney pays for half of it.
And I mean, I know you don't do surveys or anything like this, but the main downside to it is that it costs a decent chunk of taxpayer dollars at the end of it. Is there any empirical research showing what getting X number of guns off the street, keeping it, I can tell you, I worked for the Seattle City Attorney's Office for a number of years in Seattle with the gun buyback. I happened to have a colleague who had an inherited gun, and he brought it to that and was chatting with other people in line, and anecdotally, like, a lot of people were doing the inherited gun thing. So is there any indication that this is actually cost effective compared to other use for money?
I don't, again, there's not a way to kind of track that kind of data, so I can't say that there has been research or there's been I don't have anything that I can say. I can tell you from experience and from, you know, the times when I did see what seemed like not a kid, but a young person bringing in a gun, or a credible messenger coming in and saying, I'm bringing this in, you know that gun, and PD has said that gun is may not be the one, but it's the type of gun that's used on the street. So that's probably gonna save a life, just that one gun.
And you put a
Also,
price
we know,
on that.
exactly, and also
Yeah.
we know that there's data, I don't have it in front of me, but I know that there is data connecting the likelihood, the chances, if you have a gun and you're suicidal, you're gonna use that gun, or the gun's gonna be used for something else that's not good. So getting, and domestic violence, there's definitely a correlation there. And so getting guns out of the hands of people who may use them, I can't tell you, because the incident that may have been prevented didn't happen. So it's hard to, you know, show that something we got, because we got that gun, that person didn't use it. Like, you can't, I can't prove that. So I don't have that kind of data. Yeah,
Yeah, kind of trying to prove a negative.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions for our guests about, this program?
This is great.
And so you said June 13th.
This Saturday.
Saturday.
This Saturday, I can't believe it, yeah.
I mean, I was gonna tell you this offline, but I'm, you know, I'm clearing out my mother's apartment who passed away, and I was going through my old room. And I found 2 toy guns as a kid, and when I saw them, I was startled because they look incredibly realistic.
Yeah.
I will be bringing them in, for my gift card. Cars. Yeah, and because I literally said I don't want to have these, and I mean, I could destroy them, but this is a better option.
I'm missing
You keep
something,
them the
but keep
real
going.
I don't, I'm happy to say I do not have a real one, I never have.
Well, thank you so much, and especially thanks for asking how you can help, and if you think of anything or you have questions, reach Jordan.
Separate, can we do the trespass notice, trespass affidavit sometime in future? I spoke to Julie about it.
Oh, that would be
again sometime.
terrific.
For the businesses you're talking
Yeah,
about?
I think you're retooling it, but.
Yeah, I'm gonna rename it to, you know, something that is more best practices for addressing retail theft. So it's not just about the trespass notices, but a kind of broader way that we can partner to address.
The fall.
Yeah.
That'd be terrific.
What are you referring
Yeah,
to?
I now co-chair the BCI committee. I think it would be a great thing to do, but I know we're not gonna do it, we're gonna do it the way it was done before. That's a Zoom, that's specifically for
We can do
stakeholders.
whatever your community thinks would work best. If you have businesses that want to meet in person, we can do it in person.
And
If you want it to be
Yeah,
virtual.
It was, I felt the last time we did it was really successful. The only regret was that, a lot of the merchants, didn't get to go, and they said, when's the next one? So
Yeah.
they're still waiting.
Yes,
Um,
okay.
This
So it might be better on
this
Zoom.
was for, I mean, you said it's gonna be broadened, but it's for trespass affidavit notices. It's just another tool in the toolbox that retailers can, I guess, issue a trespass notice against someone who is.
If somebody
Choose the right words carefully.
keeps shoplifting at a business, you can issue a notice that says you're not allowed here, and if they come back and they do it again, it gives us the district attorney the tool to elevate the next charge as to a felony.
Which
But
then.
there's a lot
can
of
be
there's a
bailable,
lot of components
sorry.
to it. It
I
depends.
was
if the
hearing
person
2
has
people at once.
Which then can be bailable
bail.
if it's felonious. It's a tool in the toolbox not to be abused, but I think it's a great program for people to know. Anyway, I know it's off topic. Thank you,
Yeah,
but
you can
in
do
the
that.
fall would be.
But it's related. It
Well,
really
public
is.
safety, but this is.
Yeah.
different program.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug, for bringing that up. Terrific. And thank you
Lastly,
both.
go Knicks.
Yes.
Gotta get this meeting going. If anyone wants to take, if you have any.
Thank you
future
for that, Jordan.
questions, Take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming and thank you, Jordan, for facilitating. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Jordan, can I have a second? That's okay.
And our next presenter,
Thank you. Thanks, Jordan.
Oh.
Thank you.
You'll never make it.
come on up, Bhavya. We're delighted to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, I think you're set. Are you up on Zoom and you're gonna share?
I'm gonna, put something up on the screen, yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. I was communicating with our board chair.
Okay, sure.
Yes.
And then once you're up, he had to go. Once you're up, Bhavya, let's have you introduce yourself
For sure.
and, like, no rush.
I gotta rejoin the Zoom too.
Yeah, do you need the link again? Or are you good?
I have the link.
Good.
Give me a moment to connect.
Terrific.
I've seen a stem. I've seen a stem of probably 25 different presentations in the last 30 years.
Stella, she's pretty mature.
What do you say?
I'm saying Estelle has been around like 30
And
years.
she was.
And she's made like 25 presentations on 15 different topics.
Right.
Because of all the things she's been involved in,
Yes.
citizen engagement,
Well, that's
community
pretty good.
engagement, you know, what I mean, she's not a prostitute.
That's quite true.
Yeah, no, she's.
Are you able to get in? Thank you, Jordan, so much.
Will you be there on Saturday?
Isn't the Wi-Fi part?
Oh,
Yeah, it's
alright.
there, but I might see you because it is my
Okay,
area.
I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah.
On the
Yeah.
Wi-Fi?
It shows that I'm connected to CD7net.
Okay, great.
Yeah, but it
You
won't.
can't get on the link.
Exactly.
Hmm.
I am.
Yeah.
She's the third.
Oh,
Yeah, I can.
She's-
on here.
Maybe
Oh,
before
oh,
Julia.
There we
There you
go.
are.
Julia
You're right.
is right. Well,
That's what you
Estelle
were
is
saying.
Julia's
Hello.
boss.
Right.
And then Julia is.
Are you
Yeah.
talking about the last speaker?
They're being elevated,
Estelle,
yeah, yeah.
Estelle at every
Promoted.
community council meeting and she's always
I
really
don't
great.
remember seeing Estelle at the community club before, but I mean, that's.
She's been here.
Yeah.
She's been here, but
I
met
I
the
think she
rest
was
of
here
them.
at one of our presentations, but
Yeah.
more in the field, I think.
Get more than that.
And I see you all the time, the two port community council meetings, and Estelle was there.
But I even put her on a couple of television shows.
Oh, wow.
You know, public affairs shows talking about.
She worked with.
Are you all speaking that she's a very good resource?
Yes.
And
Yeah, she's
I'm
also-
hearing that and
she's
that's very
Well,
important.
she's also in a pretty powerful position.
Oh, no.
Yes, but that's very
No, no, I'll be
interesting and
back over
good.
to where I was in case you wanted
No,
to.
she-
Got a new program.
Engagement and.
So Bhavya is
uh,
ready now to
That's
present.
politics.
And so we begin with our next presentation,
Shining
moving
star.
right along toward.
Thank you very much.
Chip off.
Let's promise not to talk too much about the Knicks. So that we can
Hey,
get to see the
Hey.
Knicks as opposed to
I was
talk about
told,
seeing the Knicks.
never mind, I had to wear this for
All right, we have
everybody.
to talk
It was
quickly.
given to
We
me.
have to talk quickly, okay, it's your.
Sorry.
So
Sorry
we
for the delay
welcome,
getting
we
this
welcome
out.
Bhavya. Bhavya, go ahead and introduce
Thank you,
yourself
yes.
and we'll have your presentation and then I'm sure we'll have questions
Awesome.
and comments.
Yes. So my name is Bhavya Thakur, and I'm a high school student at Trinity. I'm a rising junior. And I am also, I guess, as some of you know, but I'll reiterate it, I'm also I'll disconnect the audio from this. I'm also a programmer, and something I've been doing recently is putting a lot of mobile apps, web applications, and this SafeWalkNYC is an application that I coded about last summer. And I coded this at a time where I was beginning a summer internship where I was walking around a lot in an unfamiliar neighborhood. And especially as a teenage girl in New York City in an unfamiliar place, it's easy to feel uncomfortable or feel a lot of discomfort. And so that's when I was really inspired to create this. And so what SafeWalkNYC basically is it is a routing system that will get you from point A to point B in the safest, but also in a fast manner. And so there's three main parts to how it works. The first is it's going to find multiple route options between 2 points based on speed. Once you have those multiple routes, it's going to check crime data. And the way it does that is it takes NYC data released by the New York City government based on crime incidents in the recent years.
And it'll take those crime data and identify higher risk areas. And once it identifies high risk areas, it'll assign a score to those areas and wrap around the high risk areas. And it'll show multiple options with varying safety and speed metrics. And so then you'll get your safest route, and there's gonna be one that's recommended based off the algorithm. So I think instead of just talking about it, I would like to show how it works as well. Here we go. Okay, so this is, you can access, here, oh, it's not showing. Let's see. See if it works now. Here we go. And so this is a public site. You can access it with this link, SafeWalkNYC.net, which is where I deployed it. And first you'll see that it's gonna prompt you for 2 locations. So let's say Lincoln Square, around where I live. And let's say I want to get to the United Nations. So we can put that in.
A good long walk.
It's a long walk.
Says, are you sure you want
That's a good question.
2 miles away.
90 degrees?
And here we go. So we see, in this case, we have a few different things displayed on screen. You see the green is where you're gonna start and the blue is where you're gonna end. And in this case, it has one main route that it suggested for you because the other ones, I guess, were not as safe or as fast. And this optimal route will give you turn-by-turn directions, and it also has GPS location. And so when you have this up on your mobile phone, while you walk, you can see as you're going your route and the instructions. But you can also collapse the directions if you need to, and you know that you can turn right in 777 feet. And so you can also, as you see, there's these multicolored dots, and so they range from yellow, orange, red, depending on the crime severity. So these are crime incidents. And so you can see up here, there's a counter, which says there are 20 incidents nearby in this 60-minute walk. And that is high risk. Again, the definition of the risk is up to change. Again, that can be tweaked. But in this case, because there's 20 incidents nearby, the algorithm makes it a high risk walk. And so you can see, basically, while you have this up on your phone, you can just walk and follow along. And the blue dots just represent police stations nearby if you ever feel unsafe and you want to catch up somehow. But you can also collapse all of this in case you have it up on your phone. And so this is kind of just probably it's a usable work in progress for sure. But this is definitely a usable prototype and it's deployed, but I really think that it can get to, there's a lot of changes that can be made and I really aspire to get those changes done. But the most important thing I want to do is get this in the hands of real users. I think that as soon as real people will be able to use this application, they'll realize how beneficial it might be. They'll tell others about it. It'll grow. And I think that's mainly why I'm here. There's a lot of limitations in that sense of how I can, make more people get to know about this app. And then also there's other constraints such as with the data, the NYC data, it comes from the NYPD crime data, and they only release that every few months. So there's definitely a noticeable lag with the NYPD release schedule for the data. So again, that's another thing that could be definitely helped. But I think I just wanted to get any feedback, any perspectives, any possible ways that you suggest that this can grow, any grant opportunities of, any people who you can direct me to. Kind of the floor is kind of open, but I'd be happy to get any questions. Yes,
I have 2 questions.
yes.
Copyright this, and do you have a lawyer?
I'm not copyrighted, no lawyer, just my parents.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, I know that my son, who played soccer in high school, was told a few times, okay, the soccer game's gonna be at this place on the Lower East Side, okay, where the soccer fields are. And he was an Upper West Side kid who had been to the Lower East Side and been there, but was unfamiliar. And there's an application where he wasn't sure where he should go and which train stop he should get off so that the walk from the train to wherever the soccer field was. So that leads me to wonder about some sort of integration into public transit So that in fact, it's not just walking
Mm.
from place A to B,
Mhm.
but it's walking in a way that you would bring in public transit.
Mm.
And then have from there, with a stop you're not familiar, Canal Street,
Right.
where do I walk to get there? And I mean, that's a real life example
good.
where I was called and said, hey, Dad, what do you think? You lived in the village all those years. What do you think I should go? I says, nowhere near the village. Okay, this is nowhere near the West Village. Okay, you're by the river. Okay, this is a whole other thing with an overpass that you gotta walk over. So I think there's a place for this. And I think it's enterprising and doing it is valuable. And I encourage you to explore the different ways and sponsors will appear.
That's a wonderful idea.
If you
Thank
build it, they will come.
Thank you. It's definitely something I'm looking for, how to get this to more people.
It's almost like this kind of
Well, I was
dystopian.
gonna touch on that myself, but so why, just in how the algorithm works, like, why, for example, is that sending you
To go
like
around.
south of the park
Yes.
and then back uptown? Is that?
Yes. And so this is again, the routing is, there are multiple different routes that you can take, but this has basically calculated that this is the safest based off of the crime. It seems that there might be more crime incidences around here, and so it's routing you around those. Again, I'm planning on being, at least once final seasons is over in the summer, I'll have a basically personal preference slider where you can select, what maybe the max time is you want for this walk. And so you can adjust it that way. But in this case, the algorithm, again, it's assigned like quantitative scores to like high risk areas. It seems to have routed you around here because there's some high severity crimes with the orange and red dots.
Okay, do you control for like safety of sidewalks and crosswalks and time of day? 'Cause there's some like parks some areas feel a bigger swing
Yes.
between day and night than others.
That's a good question. So I think inherently the crime data might have aspects of that integrated, like in terms of like the background of the crime, but currently the app itself does not control for that.
You might have a
That's-
hard time getting accurate enough data for that. For what
Yeah.
it's worth. I don't know.
Yeah. No, but that's a good idea. I think in terms of like the night and day especially, that's a good. For sure.
Doug? And then
First of
Linda?
all, brava.
Thank you so much.
And not only what you have presented, but even the way you presented it. So congratulations. I'm really impressed. I just started to kind of free associate, so I'm gonna try to speak very quickly. I understand that, so this is essentially the safest route. So I'm just rapid fire here. The presumption is your app identifies the safest route in more of an affirmative way, not in a negative way that says this block or these grids are dangerous, right? Because my concern is obviously a deleterious effect or a compounding effect where if your app keeps showing up, this is dangerous, less people are going, the more successful your app is, the less people go, the worse the crime gets, or, right? So is that, it's more affirmative, or do you identify dangerous areas? I'm concerned about, I work in real estate, there's something called block busting, there's a lot of things that you cannot, right? So could you answer that? I have just a couple.
Yeah,
quick
for
things.
sure. And so in terms of the algorithm, it'll assign a safety score based off of the crime, the like prevalence and the severity of the crime. And so it routes around that. And so in that way, that's definitely like in terms of kind of routing into the affirmative, that is a step definitely that I have to take. But I also, the next thing I want to do, and I'm not sure if you think that this would in any way help it, but I would like to have some kind of community feedback as well, functionality, where it's as if there's a prevalence of crime in a certain block, but that doesn't necessarily represent the safety of the block for any given reason, right? Or say because of the lag, that area has gotten safer, there's increased police presence, if the community feedback would any way help that in terms of real time. So,
Okay, thank you. And then, again, just reiterating what I'm
Yeah.
saying, I don't want a problem area to get worse because of the success of your app.
Got
And
it.
actually Estelle said earlier that one of the problems in our neighborhood, and she said it, I didn't say it, that we have, gun problems within NYCHA communities. We do not want an app to then
Yeah.
further deter people from walking around NYCHA when actually you want to make it safer. Anyway, the other quick question, and I'm done, is I assume this is all crime data, this is ComStats and NY 911 data.
yes.
Is it also things like street safety, like Crash Mapper or other things that's not just about crime, but crashes and other things that are maybe risky for whomever is taking the route?
Yeah, that's a good point. Right now, it doesn't have like traffic or crash data. It only takes into account like criminal, because the NYPD, it goes off the NYPD criminal data release, so it only takes criminal data, but
Okay.
yes.
Okay, because there's other things that could be
Yes,
dangerous.
that's a good idea,
Alright.
yes.
This block has been known for scaffolding to fall down 3 times.
Exactly.
You might want to know that. Okay, thank you.
And I might add that originally this was going to be a presentation at transportation.
Huh?
And Alex and I discussed it and realized that the data is more appropriate for here. But as she develops the app, it might wind up at transportation as well, because it might flourish in the ways you're
If
describing.
I had a daughter or
Might
son,
have to
I would make
back
sure
then.
that they were using your app all the time.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Linda had a question
Thank
as
you
well.
No, I
Linda?
mean, I think that you answered the question. It's really predicated on the data that you get from Comstat, and that's the thing right now. But getting back to the question about, you leave a subway, you can program, I'm here on Canal Street and first that whatever, and I'm going to and you can program it right there, as you would with your GPS when you're walking.
Yeah.
So I think it's still practical. Also, from my standpoint, I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and I knew there were streets that I couldn't walk on as a kid. And when I moved to the Upper West Side, many, many decades ago, there were streets we couldn't walk on, and that was kind of considered street smarts,
Yes.
So this kind of gives you, assuming that everybody has some level of street smarts, this also gives them an extra tool, and I think it's brilliant. So thank you for the
I
presentation.
appreciate it, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, we have Kurt. Go ahead.
I live just south of the university. Have you approached like NYU on the university? Because for freshman kids or, people who are coming in, that's basically
idea.
your audience. Is people new to New York, after a couple of years, you're used to, where the good places are,
Yes.
where the not is. And that's really your audience to, have you approach Columbia or NYU to say, for orientation, can you use this? Can I present this? And that's basically, I think it's good. The only problem is that isn't there an app that you can see real time crime going on?
That's Citizen, but
Citizen,
it's self,
yes.
it used to be called Vigilante, just to give you a sense of what their approach is.
It's,
So I don't have it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But
But, you
anyway,
better
get- Yeah, it's
I
not
think it's good.
official.
I think it's really, this is really, the best use is for people who are new to New York City.
Mhm.
yeah.
Great suggestion.
I think
That's my-
Jay's
that's my-
suggestion is the best right now. Get this thing trademarked.
Thank you.
Yeah, get an IP
Thank you for all
lawyer.
the details.
I was trying to be funny, but seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is the seed of a great idea,
Thank you.
really, and you don't wanna lose possession of it.
This is true, this is
You
true.
know, I'm not an expert in copyright law or patent law or anything else, but I can tell you, you shouldn't just let it go.
Yes, that is definitely something I do want to
Great,
do.
and I second, you should be congratulated.
Thank you, I really appreciate it. And to your point, thank you as well. I actually take Saturday classes at Columbia, and so I definitely will be trying to go up there and get feedback.
As soon as she gets it trademarked.
and you have a question, well, two, one behind you from a member of your family, and then a member of the senator's, Senator Bottcher's office.
Polly, you had your hand?
Yes.
And I-
Oh, Polly,
yeah, I
okay,
have a
I'm
suggestion.
sorry, Polly.
That's
I
okay.
have the sociological.
So why don't we go in this order, Polly, and then we'll go to the room. Polly, go ahead.
Okay, do you plan on adding audio, at some time in the future?
Sure, audio in like what sense? And
And the sense that, because I'm looking at the directions, and then for someone especially that's not familiar.
oh, got it, read it out.
Yeah,
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 that-
yeah.
That's actually a really good idea.
The other thing I was gonna say, because, depending on the time of the day that I or anyone might want to travel, you're saying that certain crimes happen, is there a way to put a feature in there to let me know, okay, if I'm traveling 6 a.m. in the morning, will there be issues that I need to be alerted on? Should I
John
walk
was
down
saying,
that road?
yeah.
Yes. Yeah, or at night, late at
Yes.
night, yeah.
I should add, that's a good.
Data's gonna
If
be a
you
problem.
can.
Yes,
Yeah.
data,
Yeah.
yeah, but at least
It may not be.
there's data for everything.
Q, did you have a question?
Yeah, hi. Also, this is just very cool. Please keep making things.
Yeah.
I do think just about, that actually popped into my head, is there any weighting or count of population density of an area? So like, I know that I've taken this walk a lot.
Capital,
This
yeah.
is listed as high, this is like the least high risk walk. I would do this, my girlfriend would do this walk at 3 a.m. So the route that is suggested wouldn't work because no one walks along that riverside really late at night. But there's probably no crimes because no one's there.
Yeah,
exactly.
There's a way.
That's interesting.
Because
That's
like,
your job? I
you
don't
know,
know.
technically, there's probably more crimes that happen near
Exactly.
Grand Central than Midway Park. But I'd rather hang out at midnight at Grand Central. And I bet there's a way to do that. I haven't care about it. But is there a way to maybe like merge that with census blocks so it also takes into account like
It's interesting.
areas where there's lots of people
Yeah.
versus areas where there's, you know, there's probably never been a crime on that.
You just need $10 to $100 million. You got
A
all.
little VC investment and you're
You
set.
just go- We've talked you into $100 million project. Jay is gonna take care of that. Okay.
I wish I could.
Thank you for this. I'm asking this question only because I'm a parent, so therefore I'm stupid. So I'm not allowed to give her any feedback or questions. Wanted to thank you all for the suggestions. The one question or the suggestion that I have, and I'm using this platform to do it for. Obviously, a lot of that will cost money, so you got to think about how to go about doing it. But there is a lot of data that is being emitted by the city system. It is about pulling it all together.
Right.
And also, I think you need help and champions in the city system to be allowed, or you have to canvas them to give you that information or data more regularly, more real-time data. Technology got there. I think people in the city government have to be spoken to about giving that data. But that, I think, a lot of what was said, I think you should
What's
think
an
of it in
example
data.
of that kind of data that you were describing? It seems important. Could you just give an example that you want to include, please?
Absolutely. For example, I do know, again, it is not getting into the system, so I don't know from
Yeah.
that perspective whether it is fit or not. NYPD releases pretty much real-time crime stats, but they release it only as a web page, right? So other apps cannot use it,
Right.
right? What all these tech heads call APIs. So if they would only allow an API into that, and that's public information, that is taxpayer funded, there's no reason why it should not be allowed. That itself would make it that much more effective. Just one example, and I'm sure.
But isn't there an open,
yeah,
isn't there an open data legislation that the city council and Gail was involved? in?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
it's a
but
couple of years old now.
And
It's
I think
more than
that
a
is,
couple years.
that is where the open data system, again, I don't know about this specific implementation, but the issue with the open data system is it mandates all data be made available. The lag or the timing or the quantity and how much you can access is not
With the
necessarily.
with the format.
Regarding open data, you may want to check because and perhaps there's a lag and perhaps there's some delineation between and 911 data and all other 311 data, et cetera, but it is plentiful and downloadable and sortable and open. So are you sure that the NYPD data that you're talking about is not available to you? Because I think it
And
is.
which is the point? That's the homework for
No, I think, and Aaron Botcher's office would know about that. I'm pretty sure that this data, I don't know about the lag, but I think that data is all available, sortable, downloadable. I think it is.
It is, I don't know about real time, but fairly frequently. It's not easy to sort through, but I think I think you'll do a better job than I did.
And I have a suggestion, I know I took up time, I just wanna say, those of you who, you may remember, I don't know, when the streets were not as safe as they are, let's say, in this neighborhood, there was a program that was called the Safe Haven, not to be confused with
Yes.
Safe Havens now, where merchants and stores and other places,
Right.
they volunteered to be a safe place.
With a sign.
Right, with a
With a
little
sign.
sticker in the window, right,
Yes.
that said, if
Right.
you
Yes.
feel like you're in trouble, you can come into this store and we'll take care of you.
Well, that's great.
If that program was re-implemented, I could see you populating your map with all different colored
Right,
dots
Yes.
along the route saying, hey, you know, this
Safe
store
haven.
says, if you don't feel safe, you're welcome to come in here and you'll be taken care of. And I don't wanna monetize it, but you know, maybe that's a way that, you know, that it increases traffic and maybe even monetizes it if someone wants to advertise, I don't know.
You had the
That's
safe
wonderful.
haven blue dots along with the precinct
With
blue
the
dots.
yeah, that's
Those
exactly.
are police stations.
Yeah,
Right, but it could be
along
a
with the-
different color
the
for
police
safe
stations,
havens
right.
along your route, yep.
Yeah.
I
Well,
would,
So get back to us on all this, okay?
Yes.
Speaking
One last thought
speaking
from
of
Jay.
monetizing.
Yeah.
I think we should act like Shark Tank.
That's right.
Find out exactly what you want from us for what percentage.
But you need to find an attorney who
Are you
specializes
Mr.
in
Wonderful
intellectual
or?
property.
I do
Oh,
think,
I
in
think-
addition to finding the IP lawyer, which I think is critically important if you're gonna keep shopping it, because someone will steal it. Seriously.
Yeah.
But putting that aside, we'd be more than willing to hear from you again in 6 months if you develop it further and want some more feedback. So feel free to come back to us.
I'll take you up on that.
John?
offer.
So, yeah, just a couple of quick things. If you don't want to monetize it, at least there are public benefit nonprofits, I believe, that kind of will shepherd and take ownership of these things so that at least they can't be misused, even if you're not looking for monetization. There are, I don't know them offhand, but there are communities on Substack that are like younger, like adult, but younger techies who play around with city open data a lot, and you might find some people interested in working with you if you look around that network. The third thing is the police commissioner, who you might be, if you go to Trinity, you could probably find a connection to her somehow, started in IT in the police department, so, you know.
Well,
There- there could be
that's a
some-
great suggestion.
Yes,
Yeah,
that
is.
yeah.
I will definitely.
Thank you so
Thank
very
you so
much.
much.
Thank you, and congratulations, bravo.
I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
They gave your father a really good opportunity of jump in there.
Thank you.
And listen to them at home, not just.
Oh. I won't know how to handle that.
All right, that was wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, very quickly, Steve, you'll be delighted to know
Thank you
we're
very
making
much.
such good time. Let's not derail now with community updates.
Yeah.
All right, quickly. Jay very wisely remembered that we are to notify public officials when we pass a board, when the full board passes a resolution. We work together to compile a list, and Jesse is working on sending out our resolution to the officials with a cover letter. I thank you, Q, for your email. I just went right to the source and got the emails from him. And we made a list of about 2 pages long for all the relevant public officials. So that's our first update. Jay, did you have something to
Particularly
add?
when we pass resolutions, which we do often asking public officials to do something.
Right.
To pass legislation or et cetera, that we have to make sure we have a process to let them know
Well,
what we've passed and what the substance is.
I mean, I hate to, because I'm unfamiliar with this, is there not a program that is followed, a procedure that's followed?
A program.
A standard
whose program?
procedure when a resolution asking for such action
A
is
board.
that.
Doug would know better than
Yes,
If the
anyone.
community board follows
and it
to,
also can be violated in the breach. Perhaps I'm wrong now, in the big, huge, meeting last week which took place at Symphony Space there, and there were people waiting outside, and it was about what? The bicycles and,
Bike
and
lane.
Redesign,
and
redesign.
72nd Street. I'm not describing the merits of each thing, but there was a major difference about the resolution, and so there were several score of people with T-shirts all printed, et cetera, and say, we're for this. Among them, new people coming onto the board. The other side of the theater, it happened to be that way, there were scores of people and said they're strongly against it.